Welcome to By the Drip, the podcast that dives into coffee, entrepreneurship, and the amazing people shaping our industry. Today's guests are Mike and Jamie, co-founders of Canadian Heritage Roasting Company. What began as a wild idea on a hunting trip turned into a national coffee brand built with grit, vision, and a whole lot of cowboy coffee. In this episode, we go deep. They share their full origin story. Grizzly bears, hunting mishaps, early pricing mistakes, and how they turned a bold idea into a brand that brings the outdoors to life through coffee. We talk about building community, staying grounded, creating content that actually connects, and planting over 100,000 trees along the way. They also open up about burnout, lifestyle design, and how their connection to nature continues to shape everything they do. If you love a good backstory and believe business should be rooted in something real, this one's for you. So let's jump in. Here's Mike and Jamie.
My name is Mike Wenzlawe. I'm one of the co-founders of Canadian Heritage Roasting Company.
I don't know if you need to lean into the mic.
Yeah, you got to get the right sound.
They do. I'm Jamie Parker, and I am the other co-founder of Canadian Heritage Roasting Company. Yeah, we both own a coffee company.
And what got you into coffee? Let's go back, 2015? Is that when we need to go back in time?
Well, you can go like way back.
Way back.
Okay. 1984.
How early? How early?
The beginning of time.
I was a sparkle in my dad's eye at that point.
Let's go back.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
I used to work at Tim Hortons.
I did too.
I was a baker.
You were a baker.
I was a baker.
And you actually made, because at that time they would have made dough and everything.
No. Everything was pre-frozen. So really, I was like the heat
You're not
up
a baker. You're not a baker.
But let me tell you,
microwave
I knew how to do the glazing on the donuts. So I did have to do the glazing. And I was a master glazer. And now I'm really good at fishing, so I'm a master baiter.
Oh yeah, he's probably the best masturbator around.
Okay, we're off to a good start. When did the idea that you guys wanted to get into the coffee industry?
I think coffee was like, it wasn't even on the radar when it initially happened. But I was on a hunting trip with my buddy Mark. This was in 2014, I believe. And I was in my last semester of university, and I only had three options like left in my entire degree. And I was in love class. I was in like Photoshop, and what was the other one? Classics.
Okay.
It was like
real tough ones.
Yeah, really tough. And like classics was online, and it was pretty easy, like medical terminology. And so I decided that entire fall, I was like, I'm not even going to go to school. I'm just going to hunt in 2014. And so I went out to the middle of nowhere in near Sundre, and I used to found some
What are you hunting?
Elk.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was out elk hunting, and
We're in Canada, so elk hunting is a thing here?
in Alberta. Yeah.
Oh, in Alberta.
Yeah,
Okay.
in BC as well, but that's it. Yeah, it only happens in Alberta and BC. I think a little bit on the border of Saskatchewan too,
I
but
actually didn't know that.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you're going to school, but you're going to hunt instead.
Yeah, so I'm going to hunt, and I went out and I was tracking, we were bow hunting, and I was tracking these elk, and my one buddy decided to come out. His name is Mark. He decided to come out with us that one day. We get in on these elk, this herd of elk, right in close, and Mark, he gets up probably like 30 yards. He was going to shoot a cow elk. He's with his bow, and he's shaking like a leaf. Like he's shaking like a leaf. I ranged it for him, and I'm like waiting for him to shoot, and he just had buck fever like you couldn't believe. And he's just like, so he lets the arrow down. It's a beautiful day. The elk run off. We don't get an elk. And
He shot it? Or?
No, he didn't pull the trigger.
Why?
Yeah, because he couldn't
Steady
himself to aim at the elk.
He was so nervous.
He was so nervous, because the whole herd had come up on us. He was so nervous that he was shaking so bad that he couldn't get an accurate shot. And it's just like, you got to know when you're hunting, like you're taking a life of an animal. And I guess it's pretty serious in that sense. And if you're going to make a bad shot, don't take the shot.
Yeah.
Like you're better not taking the shot and coming back, trying again later.
Okay.
Than you are to like take a bad shot, because you can wound an animal and you could have to track it for hours on end.
And Mark makes
or days.
Mark never takes shots. That's why we call him No Meat Muller.
Yeah. Mark No Meat Muller.
I'm on a hunting podcast. I never knew. I thought we were starting with coffee, but we're starting with hunting.
But it'll get into coffee. So after we get back, after the morning. So typically what we did out there is we just hunt in the morning, in the evening, didn't do a ton. We'd actually fish during the day.
Sounds
It was
like a
pretty
tough
sweet.
lifestyle.
Yeah, it was tough. But we get back to the campsite in the morning, and we had a big old pot of percolated Cowboy coffee, and it was MJB, like terrible Costco green tin of coffee.
And what's Cowboy? Like most people don't know what Cowboy coffee is.
So traditional Cowboy coffee is you just boil a pot of water and then you add coffee in. And then you allow it to just steep and settle out, and then you ladle out the coffee, or you pour it into cups.
Okay.
Like that's a traditional Cowboy coffee.
I thought it was with your sock.
No, so you could do it with your sock as well. So a lot of guys would throw it in their sock, throw it in a pot of water, so you don't have to like separate out the grinds.
Oh, so you're like steeping it like a tea bag.
Exactly.
You got to watch whose sock you're using.
Yeah. We're definitely not using this stuff.
Jamie's are all crusty.
Yeah. You'll cut yourself on my socks. So we percolated up a pot of coffee, and it was just like the ultimate morning. I don't know. I just never felt more free in my entire life. Like I'm this young 20-year-old, or what was I? 2014. Jeez. Yeah, I'd be like 22 or 23-year-old. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, out of complete reception, a beautiful day. And you just realize like how vulnerable, when you're out with just a bow, you realize how vulnerable you are in like the wild. Like really you just have a string and a stick, and there's nothing coming to save you. There's nothing like if you get into a dangerous position, like you're kind of done for. But what it was for me is it was very freeing, and I just had realized like all of my life I had gone camping or hunting or fishing or whatever, spent some sort of outdoors experience, and they were always the best experiences that I'd ever had. All of my best memories came from the outdoors in one shape or another. And I had thought while we were kind of brewing that coffee, I'm like, what if we could create a coffee company that kind of elicited the emotional feeling that I'm feeling right now? And how do we create that? And then we joked around. Initially, Mark and I joked around on it. And
Is this revisionist history? Like, is this actually what's going on, or is this like a bit of storytelling?
No, this is what's going on.
Okay.
I'm sitting in my shitty trailer. It's a Terry Taurus. There's a joke that used to have the anal Terry.
Okay.
So if you put anal in front of a trailer name,
Like any
trailer name, like anal cougar, anal wilderness, it's hilarious.
Do it the next time you're on a highway.
So we called it the anal Terry.
Okay.
Anyways, and I was in there and we percolated this coffee, and I was just like, man, if we could create a product or an experience that elicits an emotional response out of our customers, like it would sell itself on the shelf. And like, how there's nothing better, like if we could push people to get into the outdoors to experience what we're experiencing right now, like wouldn't that be the ultimate vision? And so I sat on that thought for a while, and then I went on another trip with Mike a few months later, and we went up to the Wilmore, and this was Mike's first hunting trip actually. And I was just doing hunting trips because like I was in university, but I had like nothing going on. I didn't need to be in school. I could do it all kind of online. I'm in love class, you know? So, so we went up to the Wilmore, and yeah, that was kind of, I pitched the idea to Mike. I thought about it. Mark wasn't in a spot where he could, you know, jump out of his geology job and join us, and pitched Mike that fall on this hunting trip. And that's when you ran into a grizzly bear as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike was like completely out of his element on that one.
I was so green. So I had
And you're bow hunting?
No, we were rifle.
Yeah, we're rifle
hunting,
elk hunting. Yeah.
but I didn't have a tag. So in Alberta or in most provinces, you need to do like a hunter's education. Then you need to do a firearms course so that you can carry a firearm. And then you need to buy a tag to hunt certain games. So whether that be whitetail deer, muley deer, bears, elk, whatever.
And this is like to keep the population like controlled and there's not too many hunters and...
Exactly. It's for wildlife management. And they call them WMUs. And so in Alberta and other provinces, there's like certain sections of land that contain certain populations of animals, and that gets studied by biologists and conservation officers. And then they basically dictate how many tags would be given out for that particular game animal in a given season. And the seasons are different, and depending if you're using primitive weapons like muzzle loaders or recurve bows or whatever. And then there's different seasons for, like bows, rifles, this, that, and the other thing. And it gets quite nuanced, but it's meant to bolster populations and create like a sustainable ecosystem. But I had never hunted before. So Jamie's like this salty vet. My outdoor experience to that point was, or kind of after that point was, I would just go camping at Mount Kidd with my parents in their trailer. Okay. I think that was called it was a prowler. It was an anal prowler. And so I got my degree in ecotourism and outdoor leadership. So I have a degree in hugging trees and eating granola. And when I first went into that degree, I was super green as well. Like everybody's done Mount Kilimanjaro like 18 times, and I haven't even summited Prairie Mountain in Alberta. And I started gaining some outdoor experience through that degree. And then I met Jamie in university and we started hanging out. We were both club presidents and planned events to raise money for our individual clubs. And we like to say we met on business terms that way. And then, so we started hanging out more and more and more. And I always wanted to get into hunting, but it's the barrier to entry to get into hunting is quite difficult. You kind of need to know somebody or have just a disgusting amount of wherewithal. And so I wasn't sure I'd have the stomach to actually pull the trigger. Right. And I wanted to go on a trip to kind of get my feet wet, so to speak, but I didn't have a tag. So I was basically there as like bear protection. I was taking a gun for a walk. And so it was a good opportunity for me to see. And I remember going in on that trip being like, this is going to be so cool. Like I'm going to be able to see it all happen and see if I can do it. And I learned quite quickly how naive I was because, 2 days in, I'm like,
he's asleep on the mountain.
I'm like, where are all the elk?
Right. So you've seen nothing at this point.
Well, we saw
horses.
We saw horses, wild horses. We saw a juvenile moose. That was like a pretty hairy encounter. And then I was about 10 yards from a boar grizzly bear in camp, and I shit my pants. Like it was wild. And so, but
in bare feet.
Yeah, in bare feet, not bear's feet, but bare feet. And then,
so it was right by the camp.
Yeah. So basically what had happened is I found this as well, because hunting, you're up really, really early. You go to bed really late. You're putting on kilometers and kilometers. It's hard. You're going up and down mountains constantly. And you're trying to be so quiet. You're walking slow. So it's really like physically demanding, but very peaceful at the same time. Right. And you can kind of really connect, like what Jamie's saying, like really connect to the environment and nature. And I find if you're not pursuing an animal, it could be boring at times.
Right.
It's like hiking.
Yeah. You're like glassing a hill so you're using binoculars to try to find animals, and you're tearing the scenery apart, trying to like spot them. But you do that for like 3 hours or longer. And so I would fall asleep. I would just get so bored. And so I'm just sawing logs, just snoring beside him. So what had happened that day with the bear is a buddy of ours who I went to school with and we knew and was in wildfire, Jeremy, he and I went down to camp to make some food. And then Jamie stayed up with Jonesy on the hill. And when I was in camp, I was getting just brutal blisters, like in my hiking boots. So I took them off to try to air the dogs out.
Yeah.
And
Make a coffee with the socks.
You make a coffee with those socks. And then all of a sudden there's like a huge clearing, willows and mountains in the background. And then this shape starts coming through the willows. And I got really excited because I'm like, oh my God, here's an animal. Like it's going to happen. I didn't know it was a giant boar, like 600 plus pound grizzly bear. And so he comes out of that thing and then turns on me, sniffing the air, looks me dead in the eye. And like from here, just past that wall, like it is like,
wow.
He's so close. I'm starting to back up. I grab the 30-30, which is a lever action rifle. I back up and I try to call Jeremy, who's down by the river grabbing some water. And I'm like, bear. And he's like, what? Bear. He's like, what? I'm like, there's a bear. And he's just like, holy shit. And so he runs up into camp with me and we can't find the bear anywhere. And it had double backed along the river. And so we came down and he had a 45-70, which is large caliber revolver or lever action, like cowboy rifle. And so we're trying to scare the bear away and it just can't be bothered. It's like king of the jungle, like just doesn't matter.
Wow.
And so we shoot kind of in front of him at his feet and he just kind of saunters off.
Wow.
And we were,
so you couldn't, like legally you couldn't shoot him.
No.
Unless
you're bleeding.
unless he like attacked you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like grizzly bears are protected in Alberta. So unless you're bleeding and you have a really good excuse to shoot one, you can't. Like you have to be fully, it can't even be a bluff charge. It has to be like a full charge.
Yeah. Like conservation officers will give you a real hard time if that ever happens, if you're ever in that situation. So it's, that's a whole other can of worms, but, so that was my first trip.
And were you hooked? Like after that encounter, were you hooked on hunting?
I mean, I was like, we didn't tag out, so we didn't get anything on that trip. So my big question of like, can I do this? Can I stomach it? Is it for me?
You don't know.
I still didn't know. But then I was lucky enough to get invited on a trip, on kind of this annual boys trip that Jamie and a bunch of his friends and family go on every year. And then on that trip, I actually tagged out on a whitetail, and it happened in a split second. I made the call, and it was like, honestly, it was the best decision of my life because that led me down the path of where I'm at now. Oh, wow. Which is, having such a deeper appreciation for the natural environment and animals and food and where it comes from and getting closer to that. It's made me into a gardener. It's made me into a better chef. So there's like, and just more alongside the brand, but where that long tail was going is after that day, we went back to camp at night where the grizzly bear was, and we were sleeping in bivy sacks. And the three boys were sleeping under a tarp, and I was sleeping by myself on a bivy sack just outside of them.
What's up with that?
Next to the willow.
He wanted to sleep like 20 feet away from us by himself. I'm like, you're gonna.
I was just on the next tree over, but then I was right by those willows. So the boys kept joking. They're like, "Hey, if that bear comes back, just make sure you yell a lot so we have time to get our guns out." And I was so sketched out that night. I remember looking up at the trees and the fire was going off and it's like glistening off of the leaves and stuff. And we slept on top of loaded rifles.
Wow.
Like it was mental.
Oh God.
But that was the night that Jamie pitched what is now Canadian Heritage to me.
Yeah, initially it was C4. Calgary Cowboy Coffee Company.
And we were going to be like, it's explosive.
There's a C4. Isn't there like a energy drink C4?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah. Thank God we didn't do that.
And that was going to be Cowboy Coffee Company, but there was like some mom and pop shop that was like set out to pasture in BC somewhere. And so we went... we were throwing around a bunch of names, and Jamie called me one morning. He's like, I got it. And he's like, I woke up in a cold sweat. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? He's like, Calgary Heritage Roasting Company. I'm like, I fucking hate it. But I didn't have anything better, so we just went with it.
That's so good. Okay, so obviously you guys have a big connection to the outdoors. Mm-hmm. We got this big backstory hunting. What was the moment like, okay, you got this idea, but how do you turn that into a real business? Or how do you even turn those baby steps into a business? Because we have so many people watching and listening that are baristas or roasters and they want to start their own company. And it's like, how do, you know, we can all come up with, well, not all of us, but everyone can come up with some kind of idea of what they want to do, but how do you action that?
Yeah. I think what was kind of important in that is I think the most important thing about starting any business is to have a vision or a value set right out of the gates. And you can kind of work back. You know, one of my mentors says, his name's Greg Vetter, and he says to work back off of wow. And I really, really like that. And so I think that's exactly what we did kind of subconsciously. I didn't know a lick about roasting coffee or anything. I remember reading an article about Phil and Sebastian and how they get to travel like 17 times a year to Origin. And I was just like, this is insane. Like imagine starting a company where you get to know more about these products and these cultures from all over the world in these unique areas. And then you get to showcase your value set of your brand to your customer base in our country. I was like, that's kind of what sold me on it. It wasn't so much of like the coffee. We use coffee as a vessel to kind of get our brand voice out there. That's ultimately what we do. How we got into it, and really it's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I didn't know anything about coffee. I remember ordering some green beans from Sweet Maria's, I think,
nice.
Back in the day. Like this is like 2014, like when their website looked like you were definitely going to lose your credit card information forever. And
it's still like that.
Yeah, I know. And you didn't know what was coming back your way. So I ordered a bunch of green beans and then I started roasting in a pan. And I started roasting in the oven in a pan. So I did it on that. I did it on the barbecue. I tried a number of different ways, like just experimenting. And
at this point, are you guys like researching anything? Well, or you're just like, it's just all action, like just do something.
Yeah. I think like what I did is I bought Scott Rao's book. Okay. It's like,
I don't think
Roaster's
page 10,
Companion.
Yeah, I don't think page 10 says do it in the oven. But.
No. But we didn't have a roaster, right?
Yeah,
so we knew nothing,
Yeah.
and so I think at that time it was just experiment, and I was able to like make a pretty good cup of coffee in a cast iron pan, actually, of all things. And we kind of started that way, and then I went and I bought a countertop roaster. So it was like a fresh roast, 770 or something like that, and started roasting on that, and kind of just dabbled that summer when I was in Wildfire, and then, or it might have been like during that fall, winter. And then I called Mike up one day and I'm like, I think I'm getting pretty good at this roasting thing. Like it doesn't taste terrible. Would you want to, like, I told you about the kind of the company pitch and what I was thinking in the fall. I know you're doing nothing in Fernie.
I was ski bumming hard.
He got out of a bad relationship, and he's like, I'm going to be a ski bum.
Like, I want to do all these bucket list things. And the two were, I'd worked for student youth travel companies in the past, like Bus Loose and S Trip and stuff. Yeah. And I wanted to move. I wanted to be a ski bum, and I've loved Fernie.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a camp counselor. Wow. Because I went to camp as a kid. And then, so Jamie, after pitching that idea in the fall over a bottle of Crown Royal, plastic bottle of Crown Royal, he called me up. I remember I was standing in Fernie Village on the hill, right in the middle, and got this call. And I'm like, oh, Jamie, cool. Yeah, I picked it up. He's like, hey, I remember that idea that we pitched to you. I'm getting pretty good. You want to do it? And I was like, yep, absolutely. And then Jamie proceeded to come down to Fernie.
Mike was 10% in.
I was at that time. Yeah, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like sick. And then he came down a bunch of times during that season, and we would snowboard and drink a bunch, and then roast coffee on the little fresh roast. And then he would like leave it with me, and then I would try roasting. At that time, I think we had 9 different coffees, like 9 different varietals that we were playing around with, and first and only time we had a Costa Rican. Yeah. We had a bunch of coffees. We were kind of just playing around, and at that time I didn't know the first thing about starting a business, like full stop.
Like I come out of university, I had a Bachelor of Science in kinesiology. I didn't take one on like business course or course on entrepreneurship or anything. And I remember even asking Mike, I'm like, how the hell do we like start this? Like, well, like what are the steps that you even take to start? And Mike's like, I have no idea either, dude. I've got like an ecotourism. Like I'm professional granola eater.
I had some.
I didn't know
classes.
you guys were such hippies.
Oh, dude.
I knew you're outdoorsmen, but you're also hippies.
Yeah.
Like weird hippies.
Weird
Like
hippies.
not like the hippie.
Yeah,
hippie.
not true hippies.
We're
We're
like
the hunting
more of a
hippie.
rugged hippie.
Yeah, like I got an Nalgene in the car, but I
definitely know
don't
how
bag
to-
my own poo. Like we're not that. I never had dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have dreadlocks?
No, absolutely
No.
not.
You got the hair for it though.
Do I?
Yeah,
maybe,
you got enough
maybe
of
I'll
it.
grow it out in my old age.
Yeah, you should.
So, and I remember feeling like kind of scared to death. Like we're about to leave Wildfire and like give up this thing. And kind of at that same, like, I just didn't know what we were doing, right? Like we had this idea, this vision, or this vision for what we wanted to showcase to people, but we had no idea like what was involved in getting off.
And was the
ground.
vision like that crystallized?
It was for me.
Okay.
And I really,
Like you go back to 2015, you talk to yourself then. Are you saying like, okay, we're going to be all across Canada. We're going to focus on grocery. We're going to like all these steps. We're going to be a lifestyle business that represents outdoors.
yeah, I would say we're very, very on track.
Wow.
Still. And I think I looked at the marketplace back then and I saw that Kicking Horse was really the only one that was playing in that sandbox, like where they were a premium, higher end coffee on grocery store shelf. Like craft coffees weren't on shelf in 2015.
No.
And I saw what Kicking Horse had done, and I believed that we had a better story to tell and a better value set at the time, and that's really what we wanted to showcase out to the public.
And Kicking Horse would have been, I don't know, a $40 million business or $50 million business like across Canada at that point? Selling
Well,
only
I
in
actually
grocery
think
stores?
I think in 2016 or 17 they sold for $220 mil.
It was 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
they were
very big.
They were growing and big.
Yeah.
And so I just knew that it wasn't a passion of mine I think like the sexiness of owning a cafe, it's there, but once you own it, once you get into it, you're like, this is not nearly as sexy as I envisioned it, or this isn't as fulfilling as, and it might be for some people, but it wasn't for me, nor Mike, I think. And so our idea was like, how do we create a product and an experience that will elicit an emotional response from our customers? And what that meant to me was like, when I was a kid, I would see my dad percolating a pot of coffee in the morning. I would smell it. I didn't drink the coffee, but it always brought me back to my most vivid memories with my family. And that's what I was trying to capture, that essence of that product, and put that on the shelf. So when somebody grabs it or looks at it, they immediately get taken back to the best times of their life. Even if they're having a shitty time, whatever, if it reminds you of this time in your life, then we're winning. I think like ultimately as a brand, you can always win on shelf if you can create that connection with your customer. And really that's what we were trying to do at the very beginning. So what ended up happening is I reached out to like a family friend who put me on track. He's like, I think you need to make a business plan. And I'm like, what the hell is a business plan? And then I started going through this business plan, and we partitioned it out, gave a bunch to Mike, gave some to me. This was in the winter of 2020 or 2014, before we went back for another wildfire season. So we were kind of trying to make the most of it that winter, getting ready so that we could launch it at the end of the next fire season. So in 2015. And kind of did this big business plan, and we wanted to open up a cafe right out of the gates and do all this stuff. And
Fireplace in there with leather seats. It's gonna be real sexy.
shirtless men.
Yeah,
it was going to be great.
We had flirted with that idea. We're like, yeah, let's get
Nobody's done this before.
Yeah, because the AHS wouldn't allow it.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta be wearing clothes, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't happen anyways. So we kind of built out this big business plan and we worked back and forth for a while. And then Mike he tried out for unit crew, got in, and we worked that fire season, and we kind of like would call each other on our days off every once in a while. And our days off never lined up, unfortunately, just because of the wildfire rotation. And one day I called Mike and I'm like, hey man, like our idea of opening up a cafe, it's never going to work. Like we have no proven sales yet. The bank's never going to give us money. And this is probably going to cost like $250,000 that we don't have. So, and Mike's like, dude, I've been thinking the exact same thing. I'm glad you said that. Okay, we're going to start on e-commerce first and foremost. And then we'll kind of go from there. We'll grow our sales, grow our base. And then we'll kind of see where it goes from there. And that's kind of like what got us on Even Kilter. And then in October, when the fire season was over, Mike and I sat down. Mike called up his good buddy, Tyler Rigas, and he was kind of our first mentor. And he had run a couple companies, and he came in over to the house. He's like, I'll clear my schedule. Comes over, we tell him kind of the whole business plan and proposal. And he's like, what do you guys like doing? And Mike's like, well, I like making content. I like kind of the marketing piece. I like this and this and this. And then I was like, well, I feel like I love operations.
You're the operations guy.
I was just the loudest voice in the room at the time. And so Jamie got all the back end shit.
Yeah. So I pretty much got all the trash.
Okay. Yeah.
Not that operations is trash. Operations is pretty sweet, but it's,
to be fair, Jamie had way
flavor.
more experience, earned experience in roasting at that time. Like I was doing a little bit, but he was definitely a lot more. Like Jamie is the roaster, has always been the roaster. And while I can use a manual to work out the machine and stuff, and I could roast coffee, like I did a live coffee roasting demo last night for a group of people. I know the nuance. That's definitely Jamie's earned wheelhouse.
Yeah. And so I think from there, we broke up our roles, and our roles, like it stayed the same way for like 6 years. And we got to it. Mike and I actually lived together, and his mom did a Freedom 55 trip down to the US. So her house was empty. Mike's sister and her boyfriend were living in the place. And Mike and I were just going to move into our own place, but we were like, the real estate market was crazy at that time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Mike, do you think we could just live in your parents' place? And so Mike, I'll let Mike tell this part of the story. But
yeah, so Danielle, my sister, and Damon, her now husband, were living there, and I moved it back in. It's a duplex in Cougar Ridge. Okay. So it's big enough for 4 people, but it's not huge by any means. And then so I moved back into like my childhood bedroom.
Okay, yeah.
And Jamie moved into our unfinished basement. Like
nice.
And my mom's by no means a hoarder, but she has a lot of stuff. Yeah. Like Christmas decorations and
she's
Easter
decorations.
She's an organized
collector
of things.
Not a hoarder right before.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like very sentimental. So we got stuff from when we were kids, and like it was mental. So it was almost like a box walled room. Like it's like an unfinished basement, cement floors.
This is a real startup. This is Google in the garage.
Steve Jobs, you got nothing on.
Yeah, exactly. R.I.P. And so he had his bed down there, and then literal like Rubbermaid walls like he would like walk kind of through.
Well, they were just like, you could see the pink insulation, and it just had poly over it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I had all of my taxidermy on the walls.
Yeah. Yeah, so
surrounding my bed, like
five heads down there.
The poor girls.
Yeah. It was great. And so we kind of broke.
Like it was Ted Bundy style.
Yeah, exactly. Put the lotion in the basket. So we would, for the first like 6 to 8 months, we lived in that house, and Jamie's girlfriend at the time would come over. My sister and Damon got a dog. They got a dog. My girlfriend, now wife, was over there as well. So it was kind of the Home Alone house. It was like a full house. And we would wake up in the morning, come into the kitchen, make pots and pots and pots of coffee, and just like toil over this business plan, or like what our next steps were and what we needed to do, and the bringing in more fresh roast to try to sell green bean kits and figure out inventory and just kind of learn as we went. And then kind of around 5 p.m. or earlier, the coffee would turn into whiskeys because Hell on Wheels, the show on, I think it's HBO, was like really big back in the day. And so we'd watch it all the time and get all like real Western. And they used to just slam bourbon.
Into gins, I think.
Yeah, well, we did. Yeah.
We got Kirkland gin.
Yeah, the Kirkland gin was great because it's huge. Like that bottle's massive. Right. So like Texas Mickey style. And we would just slam booze all the time. And then we got into a lot of community events, and we were doing partnerships with like Lululemon and Arc'teryx and all these other local kind of outfits. And we would just, I don't know. It was great. We were doing farmers markets all the time. That's where I first met your brother Cole, was at Market Collective. And we just really just jumped 2 feet in and just were learning on the fly.
So it was super sketchy though, getting to the point of like getting our AHS approval.
Oh yeah, we definitely did not have it.
Yeah, whatever.
Statute of limitation.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
What was like the first set of sales? Like how did you get, so you got the product, you got bags in, like the design.
Yeah.
You've been roasting for a bit. How do you get like the first, how do you meet Lululemon, or how do you do these farmers market? What's like the tactical steps?
So the first step was like, we got an accountant, obviously. She kind of got us through like, hey, okay, incorporate, do all this kind of stuff. Second step was build the website. Third step was we actually didn't have our roaster. And so we actually pre-sold our website. So we dropped our website, and then we said, okay, we're going to pre-sell. We kind of selected, I think we had 7 SKUs at that time, which was way too many.
Yeah.
So 7 different roasts. And so we pre-sold our website for a month. So it gave us some cash flow that we could buy inventory with and then roast with, which was pretty smart, I think.
Yeah, we didn't have green at that time. Yeah. We didn't have a logo at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
any bank financing or
no.
So it's
it
like
was $10,000 that we had saved. Mike and I had 0 personal net worth because we were 25.
Yeah.
Got out of university the year prior. And
it's just wildfire cash.
Yeah. So we put 10 grand in, and we needed to save a little bit of cash so that we could kind of get through the winter, so we could get kind of a buffer space of time where the company could get rolling, and then we could supplement with some part-time jobs. And yeah, pretty much like bought some bags, bought some green. Mike and I went on our first trip to Vancouver to go and buy a couple sacks of coffee. We actually had no idea what green bean warehousing was.
Oh yeah.
Or like how the supply chain worked at all. So we probably should just come to you guys and bought a couple bags, but you don't know what you don't know. And
that's, I think, the hard thing at the start. It's like, you don't know what you don't know. And it's also, you want to figure it out. I find it's like, at least for me, I wanted to figure it out on my own, which was like, part of that is really important. And part of that is so silly. Because if I just asked someone that already knew, I'd learn that knowledge.
You probably saved 30%.
Yeah.
I find there's so much in business, especially at the start. There's a lot of ego, and there's good and bad ego.
Yeah.
The good ego is wanting to kind of master the craft and wanting to, as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, know everything, so that inevitably when you do delegate, you know what the value of that thing is, or you know how to do it.
And you physically done it. Or
yeah,
whatever.
and you can teach somebody, right? So that's good ego. Bad ego is just like, and a lot of business owners, especially in the early on, get hung up on it, where they're just doing things for the sake of like public opinion or what they think they should be doing.
Yeah.
When in reality, no one gives a shit, no one cares, and you're wasting your time or 30% of what you could kind of get back.
So we decided to drive all the way out to Vancouver to go and meet Mountain Coffee at the time, and
C4.
Was it West Coast Coffee as well? Might have just been. Yeah, I think it was West Coast Coffee Traders, and we went to C4 because that's where the green beans were stored, and we showed up in my Toyota Matrix.
Right, still kicking.
Hatchback, the golf ball.
And I cracked open. I sold my truck to start the company, and I bought the Toyota Matrix.
Oh wow!
And then so we cracked open the hatch on that, and this like big burly like 250-pound man comes with like we only bought 3 bags of coffee.
Yeah.
And it was like $1,500 or $1,600 at the time. And this guy comes out and he's like, "Where's your truck?" And I like, Mike points down at my Matrix and he's like, "Right there."
And the leaf springs almost gave out.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So like that's how ridiculous it is. We drove 12 hours to Vancouver to go and meet these coffee guys.
We were in suits.
And
Wow, really?
Yeah, we had slept in the Matrix the night before at a truck stop. Just outside of it was outside of Abbotsford, I think. Chilliwack. Yeah. Drove in that morning, think we were gonna have a big business meeting.
Yeah, and meanwhile it's 5 minutes, nothing.
There's guys in like vests and they're like unloading bags out of a sea can, and we're like, what are we
We were
thinking?
so nervous on the entire drive out there. We had my iPhone open and we were like going over, what is our story? What are our values?
Wow.
What's our mission statement? Like all these things that we thought as soon as we opened the door, they were going to quiz us on and not give us the coffee unless we had it. And we show up and like our contact wasn't even there. It's just some burly dude in a back brace.
So yeah, we drove all the way back to Calgary. It was pretty good though. We on our way down, we were able to shoot some content with some coffee in our bags and kind of get the vibe. And then so we kind of made it like a multi-purpose trip and drove back. We had our beans, and we at the time we had like looked up roasters and we couldn't afford a whole lot. We only had 10 grand. So we kind of looked at like a 2-pound roaster or a 5 kilo roaster or whatever. No, I think it was
2 kilo.
2 kilo roaster. Yeah. So 5 pounds. And I had looked all over, and there was like one Mill City Roasters were out of the US, but they were charging like 3 times as much for this roaster. And so I found the same roaster on Alibaba, and I was like, we're going to do it, Mike. And like, this is sketchy Alibaba times.
Yeah.
Like this is 2015 where
it's
like,
still sketchy.
Yeah.
it was like, you don't know what's going to happen. And so we put like 6 grand into this roaster, and the rest was for the website, everything else in the business, a little bit of inventory, some bags, packaging. And we decided to, how we could roast in the meantime is we would just run 6 mini countertop roasters nonstop in the garage for that month or the couple months until it let up. And we literally did that. I shit you not, Dave. Like I spent 8 hours a day in that garage running 5 little micro roasters.
It would do 100 grams at a time if we were lucky.
Oh my goodness.
And that's in 13 to 15 minutes.
Oh wow.
So I would like playing musical chairs, running these things.
Breakers
and that's how we
going.
started, man. It was like hard fought. And that roaster finally came in one day on a train, and we had to go to the train yard, and we picked it up, and we were like, thank God.
Well, we were worried too, because Jamie was doing such a great job with his connection down on the manufacturing side. And we were getting like all these photos, and there was like a lot of like confidence that we had. And then all of a sudden we started getting duplicate photos, and they started kind of drying up for correspondence. And we're like, oh boy, we're done before we even started. Like we're screwed. Like that's the company just down the drain. And then a week or so went by, and then all of a sudden tracking information came on, and it showed up, and we had to retrofit it.
And damn, like it was very manual, like running that unit, and it run on propane.
Okay, yeah.
As well, but it worked well, and we were just chugging then. Like our production amount went up. Like, wow, we could prepare, and we don't have to like roast up on demand.
Right.
And we were roasting quite a bit, but we had the pipe like out of the garage at the time, and it was just bellowing smoke.
So in the
So
middle
then
of
I
winter.
started to get a little bit sketched out, because I'm like, oh man, somebody like
Could complain.
our neighbor is gonna complain. And she actually did the one day. She's like, my garage smells like smoke all the time, because her garage was
Damn
attached,
kids are smoking.
was attached, like it was attached to garages.
Yeah, it's like a
kinda thing,
duplex.
like a duplex
So
style
it's the
house.
double-
And double car garage, like big, but like attached. And she's like, I can smell smoke through the walls. And we're like, oh shit, like we're gonna get busted, man.
So we're roasting at like 6, 7, 8 p.m. until like midnight.
When it was dark.
When it was dark. Middle winter. This is like November. And
So you can still see steam bellowing out of this thing.
yeah.
There's no way around it.
And Jamie's getting so wigged out. I was like very lackadaisical. I'm like, who cares? Like, it's gonna be fine. But
no, when you're doing it, you feel that like
this is
pressure.
the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I'm in the kitchen.
I'm not a good criminal.
Bag.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I'm an excellent criminal. And it's funny too because Jamie's all bundled up because we have the door cracked, so it's cold in the garage. It's not heated.
Yeah.
And then so he's toiling away in the darkness that is my mom's garage, and I'm in the kitchen like practicing my penmanship because we were handwriting on the bags at that time, and my penmanship was so bad, so I had to write really slow in all capital letters, and that's why I have like decent penmanship to this day is because I had to. Jamie's like, my wrist is broken. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, we would have a stamp for the front and the back of our craft bags. And then we would have to manually write the origin, the like
Tasting
elevation,
notes.
the tasting
we did that
notes.
too.
Yeah.
And,
And
it's
like
after
just
the first
stupid.
100, it's so cool at the start.
Yeah.
And then after the first 100, you're like, why did we ever?
100,000.
Yeah. Why did we ever do this? This was such a
There's
bad
something
idea.
called stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We figured that out later.
So yeah, we kind of started that way. And then we had an opportunity. So when I was in university, I bartended at La Dolce Vita Pizza Bar
Okay.
in Bridgeland.
Okay. Yeah.
And Rocco, he was awesome. He was in there and I knew him and I knew he had like this old back storage area in the building. And I'm like, we needed to get our AHS to go to any farmers markets because we couldn't get into farmers markets because we didn't have our
Like
clearance
the
for
carts
AHS.
to be by the health authority
Yes,
certified.
yeah, like you have to give that certificate to these markets, and so I'm like, oh shit, like how do we do that? Plus, we also need to get out of Mike's mom's garage because it was getting super sketchy. Her neighbor was complaining, so we're like, okay, we need to move this. And so I called up Rocco, and I'm like, hey man, I got a roaster. I started this company. Is there any way that we can like rent like a back storage area or something from you that we can pipe it in and work it? And he's like, yeah, like absolutely. He's like, I'll do you solid. And so before we brought the roaster in there, it was his laundry room.
Oh, wow.
And it was half the size of this room.
And it's like a hallway, and it's the washer and dryer were always going, so it's always so hot.
Oh, God.
Plus the roaster.
No window, and
No.
we're running propane in there, which you're not supposed to do.
Oh, really?
We just threw a coffee bag over the propane tank. We were for the first little bit, we would take it out with us, but then we just kind of got like lazy with it, so we just threw a burlap sack over it.
So we to get our AHS clearance, because they come in and they inspect it, we actually just brought our countertop roasters in. We brought 2 in, and we like put them underneath the hood vents.
Okay, yeah.
And they're like, you're roasting that small amount? And we're like, yeah, really craft. And so they signed off. They gave us our
She's like, what a waste of time.
yeah.
She's like,
These guys are going nowhere.
she's like, let me see your material. And it was like a Rubbermaid with like 4 Ziploc bags in it.
And so she gave us our thing, and then literally an hour later, we haul in our roaster into this back room. We piped it up, and it connected to their freezer or their fridge piping.
Their walk-in fridge.
And because it would run so much heat, it actually shut off their fridge a couple times.
Oh, no way.
And so we kind of wore out our welcome over the course of some time there. It was great, but like Franco, his dad he owned the whole building, and he's like, what are these guys doing here? And so like
that was actually pretty good.
So we pretty much were like, hey, we need to get out of here. So after that, we actually went with a toll roasting partner, and he was kind of newer in the city, and his name was Jorge. Intro Roasters, I think he was called.
Yeah.
And that was actually really kind of the first big break for us, because he then did all of our roasting. And at that time I was running like 8 hours a day on that. Like I wasn't getting enough sales out. I wasn't like, because
you were too much in the business on working.
Way too much in the business.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we decided to go to kind of a co-packing style where we would purchase all the bags, and then Jorge would roast all the coffee, bag it, and we would pretty much collect all of that. We had rented this small little shanty room at the Village in the Northwest. Mike's buddy was in charge of that building, and it was literally the size of this place.
No,
like
it
this
was
room.
third of the size, like with tables on both ends. It was tight.
And so we kind of brought everything in, unpack it, repack it, deliver it, distribute it out to all of our vendors. That time though, our margin was so small because we were co-packing. It was like 15%, if that.
Oh, wow.
And so we weren't making any money in the company, and Mike and I certainly weren't paying ourselves. So we would just like recycle whatever we could make back in the company so that we could get it to the point and volume that it would justify us to buy a roaster, start a facility, do all that kind of stuff. And really that's kind of how we got started. And we did that for like 3 years until
the co-packing 3 years. Wow.
Yeah. Mike and I didn't pay myself for 4 years, and I think Mike for 3.
3.5.
3.5. And coffee's a tough game. You want to get into it. Like, you're not going to pay yourself until you can establish your brand for a bit. And so I was the youngest school bus driver in Calgary, and I was a school
You were a school bus driver while doing this.
Yeah.
To show how pragmatic and utilitarian I think we are, but Jamie is in that spot, is prior to starting the company, he was on track to get his SARTEC, search and rescue, for the Calgary Fire Department, so CFD.
No, that was with the military.
Oh, that was with the military.
I was trying to get into SARTEC for the military.
And then like thinking about CFD, and then as part of your CFD, I guess, onboarding, you need to have your, what is it, class 6?
Class 3.
Class 3 to drive
and
an
air
engine
brakes, yeah.
and air brakes. And so Jamie was like, well, if this goes tits up, I'll at least have my class 3 through the school bus driving.
You get your class 2, but it counts as a class like 3.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So it's like
just
the double-edged sword of like, I'm kind of all in, but I
might as well work on things while I'm doing this to acquire more skills in case it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know any of this. So going back, if you guys could like reset, what would you have changed out of the gate? You could change, one or two things. Would you start with more money? Would you start with more knowledge?
Man, I think if we had to restart today, we wouldn't get into coffee.
That's not the inspiring stuff we need, buddy. I think though, any entrepreneurial journey, you have no idea how much work you're signing up for.
Yeah.
You have no idea what the heartaches and the late nights and all the stuff that's coming. And if you knew, I don't think 90% of people wouldn't sign up.
Yeah, you have
the
to be
naivety.
naive.
Yeah, you need that as a young entrepreneur. I think it's critical. What would we do different? Well, I think there was a time and place in coffee where you were at the start of the bell curve. And I think when we jumped in, it was just kind of on the uptick, and then the bell curve has gone up. And now we're going to start to see a lot of the cream rise to the top. And
when you're saying the bell curve, it's like the rise of like specialty coffee and people drinking like higher end coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you guys were obviously like well ahead of the bell curve on that one. Same with Phil and Seb. We started at kind of the same time as Monogram, and we're fortunate enough that like we had enough goodwill and time in the marketplace that we had a customer base. So during, this commodity spike and during COVID and a number of other like things that occurred in the marketplace, we've been able to survive and kind of like that war of attrition on that.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying, if I were to do it again, number one, I would say get a really good mentor in that field. If you want to get into consumer packaged goods, if you know that that's like your vision, like get a mentor in the consumer packaged goods world. If you want to get into the franchise model or building out coffee shops, get a really good mentor there. Don't be afraid or ashamed or scared to reach out, because to any true and good business leader or professional, the biggest compliment is when somebody asks you to mentor them.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs want to help other entrepreneurs.
Big time.
Absolutely.
We're a rare breed. And like the more you see somebody who has that grit and that work ethic, and when you see that, you're willing to give a lot to that. So I think ask for really strong mentorship, because you can navigate a ton of hurdles. out of the gates doing that. Number 2 is kind of get your mind in the position of understanding that it's going to take a decade, not 2 years. Like if you can just get your mind in that frame, you're just going to kind of enter I think like the battle space a lot better than thinking you're going to be a 3-year success story and you're going to be off to the races and achieving all of your goals within that amount of time. I think like if you went in with that, then you're going to be more structured, more planned, and you're going to kind of grow things at a slower but sustainable rate.
Or not get frustrated. I think
Correct.
like I can relate with that at the very start. I was always frustrated how slow things took to happen. Like you get action on things very quickly, but the sales would, you know, you can't double your sales in a cafe overnight.
No.
Or unless you go viral or something. And it's like, you got to have that long, a 10-year timeline is like, that's good advice because we want to have everything now.
Yeah.
It's like built in our mind.
Yeah. And especially like millennials or Gen Zs, like it's like we've had everything at the snap of our fingers, right? And I think I kind of always go back to this thought that like an 80-year-old tree is as big as it is because it took 80 years to get there. And I think building a business is no different. And I just wish I had that mindset early on so that I wouldn't have the letdown of how hard and arduous and long kind of the path would be. And number 3, I think would be profitability. Really digging into my margins and understanding what a margin is, what profitability and what net profitability is in your company, and then kind of working back off of that or making strategic decisions and sacrificing certain margin to get to a certain goal. I think like those 3 things are big things I would really focus on. I don't know. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's kind of like we are who we are today because of what we did.
Yes,
so it's like one of those, it's like that, as you said, double-edged sword, right? Like I wouldn't really change anything. I think if we, the fact that we didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have any financial backing made us as like strategically frugal as we are. You know, we can really stretch a dollar. We're very intentional with what we do and when we do it. We never think that we're the smartest people in the room. We always try to take advice so that we're not repeating other people's mistakes or we get outside perspective, but we stay very concrete and driven on what our purpose is and what we want to do and how we want to be perceived, right? Like that reputation is important. But if we could change some things, you know, knowing what I know now, and it would be that it's like, you know, sweat equity exists and you always got to pay that bill, but profit above everything else. I think if we had that mentality very early on, we would probably be in a better situation. We have always accepted mentorship and have sometimes pursued it, but I think there were some years there that we were really in the business, just grinding it out, that we probably could have picked our heads up a little bit and said, hey, we should get a third party in here. Like we should have somebody to bounce ideas off of, because I think that would have only benefited us.
So you guys plant, I was reading on your website this morning, you planted 130,000 trees. Is that number low?
We've actually planted 183,000.
Wow.
And we have another 150,000 already committed.
Wow.
But we don't want to publish numbers that haven't been physically planted in the ground yet. So that's because we have to do kind of forward contracts on our trees.
Okay.
So like, yeah, we'll say, hey, we can look at what our last year's numbers were, and then we can kind of give that. We give like a more conservative value for the tree planting teams because they have to grow them in nurseries a year prior.
Oh, okay.
And then yeah, we pretty much will take like 2025's numbers, and those trees will be planted in 2026.
Yeah. So we're at 145.5 right now, and then committed 183 by the end of the year.
By the end of December, we'll
And
have
then-
183.
And then another 150.
And how many have you each planted?
100.
Yeah, we actually both planted 100.
Yeah.
100 exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So we went out with
We did speed to plant.
Yeah.
And I think-
Yeah.
did
You
I
just
win or
all
you won?
100 right on the
I
I
ground.
think you won.
I
Mike
won.
actually beat me.
Yeah.
Mike's good at it. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Like
it's brutal
forest firefighting wildfire is so hard and arduous and the best job ever. And if you could ever do it, do it. But tree planting was difficult. We worked with an outfit, Summit Reforestation, that came out, and we were able to go with their crews one day, and we were generating some content. And we wanted to try our hand at planting trees, and it was, we were slow. We would have not made any money as tree planters.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, would have owed money.
Yeah. You owe money now.
Yeah.
Let's talk content. You got the YouTube channel going. It's like humming. I've seen like a lot of I'm a subscriber. So
my man, thank you.
Talk to me about that journey. Cause you guys, I feel like that's, roasting coffee, getting it on shelves. Like, that's the core of the business. But I feel like this is like the future to match what you're trying to do, like more content. So how is it making content?
Yeah.
What's the strategy and any advice for me?
Yeah. I love it. Well, the funny thing is,
it's the hardest thing ever.
Yeah, when we started
Harder than entrepreneurship?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, when we started,
it's fun though.
When the cool thing is, during that time when we were toll roasting, co-packing, we could just focus on building the business, right? There wasn't that huge other half of like producing. Yes, we still had to bring it back in and redistribute it and build invoices and follow up on cash and this, that, and the other thing. But we could really just kind of focus on
sales and marketing
and being ourselves and, doing those goofy things that we like to do. And YouTube has been a passion project of Jamie's forever, because he's like, why aren't we doing this? We need to do this. And from my side, where I was like kind of holding the bucket that is marketing, is like, I wasn't proficient in any area at that point because there was just too much going on, right? Like, you need to do your email newsletters. You need to constantly create polished content. You need UGC coming in. You need this, that, and the other thing. And it's like all the time and every day. And then you listen to these like TikTok things, and it's like, Instagram CEO says you should be posting 5 times a day. Yeah. And you're like, I can't even fucking post 5 times a week. Like, what do you mean? It's, but it's a change of mind, and it's for us, we've created a framework now that I think is scalable, where it relies on, really talented individuals for the polished stuff. It relies on, friends and family and brand ambassadors that are able to kind of help with the sheer amount of content that we need. But where we can focus back in on, and really control is sentiment, is showing people who we are, and getting back to the start of this conversation, where it's like, we want to create a product and experience that elicits an emotional response. Coffee doesn't really matter per se. It's the lifestyle, and it's about getting people more involved in the outdoors and to break down those barriers and make it more accessible. So if we're going to just take our phone out and, we're trying to get out of our own way and not need all the fancy stuff. And like, let's start with this, and we can always improve, and every day we could get better. Yeah. But for the YouTube stuff, like, we have 91 subscribers, right? It's our views are.
Do you have your burner accounts subscribed?
It's actually 89 of those subscribers are burner accounts.
And then you just paid me to say that earlier, so it's actually 90.
But and the cool thing is, or what I'm most excited about now is, we've built it, and we have a lot of irons in the fire. So like, we'll see how this all kind of transpires over the next year, but. We now have enough of a platform, maybe not on YouTube, but as like a holistic platform. We have enough brand voice that we can have validity in reaching out to people who we think are doing really cool things. And a lot of those people are already friends. And we can say, hey, we want to go and do this thing that we would normally do with you anyways. And we're just going to film it. And we maybe bring some photographers around so that we get some stuff that actually looks good. But like, it's about being, again, authentic and enjoying what we do. And that's what's been so fun with the YouTube stuff, is like, we are doing things that we would normally do. Like, it's not like we're manufacturing it, where we live the brand. We just bring our phones along, or cameras along, or people along, and we have a shared experience. And then that just accesses their market and their audience. And I think if you do it from a place of kind of authenticity and just genuinely trying to have a good time, it's really easy.
Yeah, I think all content needs to definitely look back inwards on your value set as a brand and like what gets you up in the morning, what gets you excited, because it's about consistency. Like good and consistent is better than great and every once in a while. And like, you know, I think with a lot of our content, are we putting out the best content? Probably not, but we're getting better every time we put it out. And we're refining. And I think what I've always wanted to do, and something that excites probably me and Mike more than anything, is how can we mesh our business and our personal lives together to the best of our ability? You know, how can we one day go on really unique adventure trips and have our company subsidize that, so that we can not only check off our personal bucket list, but our work bucket list, and build content at the same time. And I think that's what we're kind of working towards as a brand. And we're doing it. And like, did we do that right out of the gates? Absolutely not. It was on our personal time, doing our personal things when we have to pull out our camera, maybe when you don't want to and you want to live in the moment. But you know, that's that small component of discipline that it just takes to get something started.
Okay. It's May, whatever today is, the 15th, 2026. What's the 1 year? What are you trying to hit in 1 year in the content? Like how many subscribers? What are some goals 1 year out?
Wasn't yours like 1 million followers?
Yeah. 10 million followers. This time next year.
What would
Put
be
Mike on the spot because he's solely in charge of marketing.
Well, he's supposed to be having the KPIs here, so we're going to hold him accountable.
Yeah, hey, I have KPIs.
Okay, where are we going in a year?
1 million subscribers.
Where's the whiskey at? We need to start drinking now.
Exactly.
No, I think if what I'm truly working at right now is again that holistic approach. What I would like to do, the biggest KPI for me is being, and I'll be modest, but is like I'm working like a month in advance. So like if it's May 1st, if it's May 1st, I had that dialed in on April 1st. Like we already have stuff scheduled, everything is, but to the quality, right? Because where we're at right now is like the stuff that we're creating on YouTube, that's the content that's always kind of getting better. But it's like just not there yet. Whereas the stuff that we put out on our socials, the stuff that we put out on our email newsletters, our digital advertising and marketing, all of our imagery, all of that stuff is like polished, and it always has been. Like from the get-go, I have a lot of brand, onus. Like I won't put out gobbledygook. Like it looks good, it looks polished, it looks awesome. Where we're starting to experiment more is on that like a little bit more authentic, unpolished kind of run and gun stuff. But I would like to get it to a point where we're ahead, right? So that month's already done and dusted, and now we can plug and play stuff. With respect to vanity metrics, like how many subscribers we have, how many views we're getting, and all of that, I mean, it's that's what's hard for me, because I'm like, we could buy, we could throw money at the problem. Yeah. We don't have any, so maybe we could borrow some. But it's like the problem with the vanity metrics for me is like that's something that can always be purchased. So if we're ever in like a dire strait and we're like, yeah, we want X amount of subscribers is what we've decided. So the next goal is 500, right, on YouTube, so that we could get into the creator set. That's the next milestone for us for YouTube. For Instagram, it doesn't matter if we have 500,000 followers and only 3 people see our posts versus the other, right? So I would rather have a really captive community. I would rather have these things that are hard to analyze, but I'd rather have, 100 brand ambassadors that are posting regularly and that are supporting the brand. I rather have a depth of field creator spotlight every month, where we're going out with another creative or with another person who's that we admire in the field, and we're going to go and do an activity with them. I would like us to create a YouTube video every week where Jamie and I are living our passions, and we're able to do, like, those are the metrics that I care about. Will they drive sales? I mean, they should, at some point they will. At some point they will. Yeah. But if people like what you're doing and like who you are, it will eventually convert. Yeah. And the other thing too is we learned this as well when we were doing the club stuff is we will never host an event where attendance will make or break the success of that event. Because we did a lot of those bar events and a lot of them were ragers and a lot of them were great and really successful. And we had other ones that were total duds. And so learning that lesson early, we apply that to, marketing and social media. It's like, if we're not doing what we love, then what the hell is the point?
Yeah.
Because again, yes, we sell coffee and we know coffee and we love coffee and all that, but like, it's not about coffee. It's about the lifestyle brand. So if we're being disingenuous, if we're trying to manufacture something or we're doing something that we hate, then like we're underpaid.
Right.
Like,
or what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? Yeah. Let's go get like stupid corporate jobs that we hate, but we make money. So the idea is to love what we do it authentically, and then it's continuing to tell a better story, and your market will find you. So yes, it takes time, and it takes time to find your niche, but ideally when that happens, that's where we'd be.
You guys, you've done jackets and vests and clothing. Where's that fit into the mix now? It's
coming back a bit. We had to put it on pause just during, like, we kind of just maintained it.
Okay.
This is an area that I feel is very untapped for our brand, and will have significant legs. And the reason for it is, I think I'm just a creative in that way. Like, that's like, actually, like, if somebody were to ask me like what my dream is, like, I want to design shit for the outdoors. And like, so what I try to do is I try to like pull my dreams into my business and try to find a way to make it work. And we see a little bit of a niche there. We also see that if we can capture people from these different walks of life or areas in industries, and we can pull them into our brand, like somebody who had never heard about us, we've had people buy our vests from Switzerland. And they've never heard about our coffee company, but now they're buying our gear because they want to wear it in these unique climates. For me, that's like, there's no better way to pull people in, and it's like it's really cool, and it's a passion. But I think where it went is we really went full bore when we first did it. We didn't have the systems in place, so we broke a bunch of systems with like pick and packing, that kind of stuff. It's just a different beast than like current CPG world. Also SKU setting and like how many sizes you have, how many you have on hand. Our original manufacturing partner was really good, but really slow. And then, so that was a struggle, is like we would be out of stock and couldn't get it in for a month or two. Or if we pre-ordered anything, we would get dates of like 2 weeks out, and then it would be 6 weeks out. And like telling your customer all the time, like you're just going to hurt your brand image. So then we decided, okay, let's pump the brakes. We'll put out some unique goods here and there that can kind of still be the lifestyle. So like our Gone sweater that I'm wearing here.
You can't buy the hats you're wearing, that shirt. I can't buy that. I looked online.
Yeah.
You can buy the sweater though.
Yeah, so
are you going to gift me one for having you on? Or what?
I'm working on it right now. So my big...
Don't change the subject.
I actually have one for you. I've got one of these for you if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Only when I brought it up, you're going to give me one.
Yeah. So I have been working on this kind of in the backgrounds of our whole company for the better part of 6 months, where I've been sourcing new and better manufacturers so we can scale our production, have better QC, and be able to kind of pivot a little bit more on our products. So this fall we'll be launching our Badlands wax canvas downfilled vest again.
2.0.
Yeah, and it's going to be better and more durable, and it's already like ridiculously durable, but it's going to be even better. And so we're coming out with some stuff that's going to be kind of launching again here this fall. So I do want to get back into that, but there's a fine balance between, that profitability and brand building and marketing, right?
And it's so tough, like I imagine clothing and then grocery, like that's tough business.
Yeah.
And you're putting them together. But it's like they find a passion, they want to represent the brand, and that's like one of the greatest ways to do it. Like,
well, I think if you look at brands like Black Rifle, they're an apparel brand before they're a coffee brand. And if
you look at
a video and a media
public
brand, right?
You can look at their split, and I think it's like their coffee is like 50% of revenue, and then it's like the goods section is like 40%.
Yeah. And their founders, one came from apparel and one came from coffee, right? So it's kind of harmonious that way. Yeah. I think that we get a lot of, when we first started the Gone series and the apparel stuff, we were also doing flash fuel. That product hadn't existed yet. So we were doing product innovation and R&D. And then we were doing food service and grocery and online and a cafe. And we had people in our circle be like, this is way too much. Yeah. Like, you guys need to focus. Yeah. What's keeping the lights on? Do coffee. You are coffee. And we've kind of like fought that idea a bit. Where I think they were correct is its timing. You need to be practical, and you need to look at where your finances are at, and like, what can you afford? Maybe we tier it down. Maybe we take smaller steps. But anybody who knows us knows our brand. Like, the apparel makes sense. Yeah. You know, like, apparel makes sense for most companies, just as like having people wear your shit and be like walking billboards. But the more technical gear that Jamie's been designing, the lifestyle or the like legacy garments and all of that, and then even the designs that we have, I just find that like, you don't need to drink coffee to love CHRC and represent and be a part of our community. This gives you another avenue. You know, I see people rocking around all the time with like our hats or whatever, and I always go up to them, I'm like, dude, nice hat, and they're like, who the hell are you? Like, they just don't know. Which is super fun. But I think as long as it makes sense, like, business advice would be like, have focus, like, know what's a profit first, right? Like, what's driving the business, what's keeping the lights on. Because if you're not getting paid for something, it's a hobby. Yeah. Right? Like, if you do something you love, you're not getting paid, it's a hobby. So if you can do the things that that you're passionate about, and still make sense for your brand, why not?
Yeah, and I think it gives us great flexibility. It's marketing is what it is. The way I chalk it up in my mind is I can either put money into an ad spend, or I can put money into a piece of apparel, where my customer is going to pay for that marketing, or at least break even on it. And now I've got this thing that's out in the world that is reflecting our value set and our brand and the quality of our stuff as well. So in my mind, I think it's like, it gives us a ton of flexibility. If we want to do promos in grocery stores, you know, we can offer up some gear. If we want to do other things, social media giveaways or whatnot, we actually have tangible products where we've paid for the cost of it, but it's the retail value is what value we can place on the marketing. So I think like there's a lot of cool opportunities with gear or apparel that people they just don't think of it that way. They think it's kind of like a wasted spend or time or focus, but really we're trying to we're all marketing companies at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And you just got to find the best way to market to the best of your ability.
And don't go too much on the other side where you're a brand that just puts out gear with your logo on it. Like, unless your logo is really cool or something like that. Not really Grosso, but no, it's just like, but like, it's like, you see, it's like one thing that when we were starting to do apparel is we were like, people don't want to wear just like our logo. Yeah. Like that, we're not that cool. Like maybe Arc'teryx, right? Like, yeah, the cool dinosaur, but, we actually had a good way to beta this out early on is when we were doing all of our farmers markets or any customer facing activity, we would get designs and we would get like one-offs printed on Vistaprint or like at the Rocket. And then we would wear those at events. And then if people were like, that shirt is sick, can I buy that shirt? Or like, funny. That design's awesome. Yeah. We would take that feedback right then and there. And then we'd be like, cool, banking this. And then if nobody said anything, we're like, that design's shit. Like nobody wants it.
That's a damn logo.
Yeah. But then at least, and it, from like kind of like a, you know, poor entrepreneur side is like, now my entire wardrobe is stuff that we've made and we're at least wearing our stuff all the time.
And we kind of always think like, we want to make stuff that we want to wear, and like kind of build our own stuff. So that's really where a lot of the inspiration for any of the gear that we build is I just take little tweaks of like, okay, this company does this, they do it well, but like we could adjust this, we could work it here. And that's kind of how I go about.
Okay, boys, I want to switch to...
Sorry.
Okay? It's that bad coffee you were drinking, right?
Yeah. I think it was that. Yeah.
Is
that Drano?
Actually, it is. Switch more personal.
Yeah.
Couple questions for the boys here.
Oh no.
What does rest look like for you guys? How do you recharge? Entrepreneurship can be all consuming, can be very draining. Where do you go? What do you do to rest? How do you get away from it all?
For me, man, I don't know if you ever rest. Like it's like having a kid. You sleep less. It's just you adjust and you adapt to the climate. And I think that's the great separator between people who are successful in entrepreneurship and aren't, is either you adapt to it or you don't. A way that I like recharge my batteries.
Yeah, don't look at it as rest. I think we view rest as like it's weak and that's like not a good thing. How do you recharge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the best way that I recharge is I always go back. I try to get back to like the roots of like anything. And I'm going to try to use an analogy of like you get out of a breakup with somebody or out of a relationship and you have to refine who you are to kind of like move forward, be proud, build that confidence, and then move on. And I constantly do that in business where when I'm at a point where I'm not motivated, I'm tired, I'm beat up, I go back to like the grounding element of why I got into this. And it always comes back to our value set and kind of like the outdoors in that way. So I get into the mountains, or I get into fishing, or I get into a quiet space where nothing else is on your mind except for the task that is at hand. Whether you're rucking up a mountaintop and you have 2 kilometers to go and you're carrying 80 pounds on your back and you're sweating, like you can't think of anything else in that moment. You're physically so exhausted that you just cannot think of anything else. And then when you're done it, you're so tired that nothing really matters. So that's like one way. And then like realizing like life is just not that complicated, especially when you're in the woods. You're not that important. Like if you died in that moment, the wind's still going to blow. The herd of elk still going to run over you or like run around you. Like I'm just saying like totally. You're really not that important. And so like bringing my mind back to that point of like, wow, like woe is me, or like my struggles are so difficult. Like, no, we live in a really cool place. We get to have really cool experiences, and like fishing is very similar. Like fly fishing is like you're focused on the water and how it works, and you see the fish come in and try to like maybe look at the fly. Oh, it's not the right fly. Now you're kind of adjusting, and it just brings you back into like homeostasis when you kind of do those things. So I would say an outdoor adventure with a component of physical activity, where even if it's a run, like that's why I run all the time as well. Like I run at a pace that I can't think.
You're running from your problems. No,
yeah, I guess a little bit, maybe. But it's like there is a component where it like drops a ton of dopamine. Like when you're done a run, you're never going to be like, I feel worse from that.
Yeah. Oh no, exercise does that. It's so like it's the lead up. It's always, oh, I don't want to do this. And then you go and do it and you never feel regret.
Yeah. So I would say like a big part for me is like getting back to like who I am as a person, in whatever activity I'm doing, and then physical fitness as well. So that's kind of how I reset.
Yeah, physical fitness for sure. I mean, that should be a part of everybody's repertoire, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or not. It just makes people better, makes yourself better, gives you goals. And echoing what Jamie said is like finding activities that provide flow state. And that could be anything. It's not just exclusive to physical activities, but it's kind of more so around those. where it's like idle meditation. I use fly fishing as the example all the time because it's like you're not exhausting yourself, but you are like you're passively interested. So you're reading the water, you're thinking about your cast, you're mending the line, you're looking at the fish. Like you're just kind of like in a space where you can't think about other stuff. You are actively participating. Mountain biking is like that, right? Like you take your mind off, you're in the trees. So just finding activities, golf works really well for that. Just again, physicality is the easiest way to get in flow state and just to kind of get your mind off things. And it's not that you're running away from your problems, right? Like you're not trying to escape those things, but what it does is it gives you reprieve. So your mind could kind of work in the background and reset. And then you gain clairvoyance coming out of those activities.
And you step away from whatever the problem or whatever you're dealing with, and then you can come back with more clarity. Instead of sitting at home and like, I think I did that for a while. It's like I'd sit at home and try to like grind through it in my mind. And it's like, without that rest or reset, it's not, you're not grinding through, like it's very hard to grind through it. You need that break.
The mental block, right? It's when a good example of that is if you're ever trying to, like next time it happens, if you're ever trying to think of somebody's name, or like a name of a place, and you're trying that recall, the harder you try, the further that name will get away from you. Like you cannot do it. But if you just like actively try this next time, you're like, oh, who's that? What was that person's name or whatever? Just forget about it. Like just move on to something else. And like 20 seconds later, it's going to pop into your head.
Steve. Okay. Hunting's a big thing for you boys.
I did want to touch on one more thing.
Come on, man.
Before you break into that question.
Okay.
And I think it's really important.
Tell me about it, Steve.
It's really important for me because it's kind of like me getting my bus license when I was building our company. I feel like the way that I am satisfied with whatever stage I'm at in entrepreneurship is I'm constantly trying to acquire skills on the way. So if it ever gets stripped away from me, I'll be satisfied with the journey that I was on, and B, have skills to kind of carry me forward in life. And I think anybody, like, that's the best safety mechanism that you can have kind of like on this journey. One thing I do is I always try to do like very ridiculous things that are out of like my comfort zone. Like I built my barn, and I did that during COVID. But I did that because I was scared to build something that big or take on a task that arduous. I also doubted myself in thinking that I could do it. And so then I leaned into that of like, no, I'm going to mill the wood. I'm going to build the thing. And now as I go, and it's like, we constantly do those things as we grow as entrepreneurs, but like always constantly like outside of work, like this is hard as it is. Try to find things that like truly scare you or are passionate about and like build on those skills.
I think that's really important because like entrepreneurship is so hard, and having like you got to take risks, and it's like that reach goal or like stretching to get to something, and that unknown, you're kind of always in entrepreneurship, always on the unknown. Like you don't know how do you get more content going all the time? You don't know the exact way. And if you want to come do I need our deck redone. So if you want to come by, it's very hard for me. That would be
it's scary.
I'm so not handy. So
right. Yeah. No.
Should we wrap up and go
do the deck?
Yeah, we do the deck right now. Well,
I got the tools in my car
while we do the deck while it's raining. First step, let's not do it while it's raining.
Oh, I didn't know that. Hunting. Okay, we got to go to hunting. Someone is listening. They're an anti-hunter.
Yes.
In the nicest way possible. What are some benefits of it? Because I think, I kind of lie on the fence. I'm like, I'm not, I'm a city slicker. I'm not a hunter, but I feel like we should understand where our food is coming from. We're so disconnected from that. But I feel like, I don't know if I could kill an animal. Mm-hmm. I indirectly do because I eat meat. and I probably indirectly kill lots inhumanely. We all do, unless we're, vegan or vegetarian. So talk me through my...
If you drive a car and you've hit a deer, you're a hunter.
Well, I've never done that either. So
yeah, there you go. You're in the clear. I think
I'll let Mike touch on it first.
Yeah, totally. Because I think I have a similar perspective, right? Like where I grew up my whole life, I ate meat. I never thought I could hunt. I never thought I could do it. I knew that I had an interest in it. And when I met my girlfriend, now wife, she was vegan. And she now eats wild game. She won't eat anything processed, but like if we catch fish, if we hunt game, she'll have that. If we have a circle of friends that all hunt, so we'll kind of share the bounty that way. And it's made me more plant-based, but it's also made me more like, I won't go out and buy meat. I think the thing is, it's like, I understand somebody's opinion when they say like, when they have a hard time with hunting, because we as hunters have a hard time with hunting. No one's out there unless you're a psychopath, like shooting animals and getting all fired up about it. Like you feel like a piece of shit when you do it. Like, I think you need to, because you're taking a life. So, but it's what you're doing with that, and it's the appreciation, and it's the follow through. So if I highly encourage people, if they're looking to get into it, they go with people that are ethical and responsible and safe. And when they inevitably get an animal for harvest, they do the entire process. You kind of get back to our forefathers, right? You butcher the animal yourself, you process your own game, because it makes you so intimately attached to your food source and where it comes from. You know exactly where it comes from. And there's also something really powerful about like sharing it. I think we as entrepreneurs get that. Like, it's like, I've built this, my blood, sweat, and tears, and now I'm sharing it. And that's why we take it so personally. Same thing with like growing a garden and making, like, I jar salsa and I like give that out, and I covet that. Right. And I only give it to people that like covet it back. They know how much effort went into it. And a lot of that goes with hunting. And the other thing too is I think it just makes us better people. It allows us to get out and share memories. And it's never about the killing. Like that's the least thing. It's like, as soon as you pull the trigger, the work starts and all of that, but it's about spending time with people that you love and you admire and that make you a better person. So with all of that said, it's like, I don't throw shade at people who are maybe anti-hunting and they've chosen to be vegan or plant-based. I mean, they're doing what they think is right. Whereas we are on the other side, and I'm not buying meat from the grocery store. I harvest my own game, and not in a virtuous look at me kind of way. It's just I'm choosing to do what I think is responsible. And I think if the group that I have a little bit of a hard time with is the group, and you're not one of them, but is like the individuals that will eat meat, don't hunt, but have throw shade at hunting, and think that we're like all these monsters. Yeah, and I'm like, well, you're just being quite a bit, like, you're a little hypocritical.
Or just like walk through factory farming.
Yeah, you need to see how the sausage is made, right?
Or like how those chickens don't move for their whole life, or pigs or something.
And I'm not by any means saying that somebody needs to, like, if they don't hunt and they eat meat, they need to go and do that. I'm like, I get it. Like, I did that for pretty much my entire life until the last 10 years. So it's like, I understand that drop off is quite, like, that step off point is difficult for some, but I don't know. It's just, I feel like there's no, what is it called? There's no argument that can't be made that hunters pay more for conservation than the general public do. Hunters do more for conservation than the general public do, full stop. We buy tags, we buy hunting licenses, we buy all of these things that directly contribute to ecosystems and hunting and angling programs and conservation officers.
We report.
all the time. So if you are successful or not successful, you report on the health of the herds and what you saw and all of that. So we're constantly giving feedback to
which helps them manage what's going on.
Biologists, exactly right. And then the other thing too is I believe that on the whole, because there's it's a bell curve. There's shitty people out there. But on the whole, we are stewards of the land. The reason why we plant a tree, the reason why we're the first and only Canadian coffee company to be Fish and Wildlife Volunteer certified, the reason why we're in the bush all the time is because we care about it. We have a deep respect for wildlife and animals and fish and all of that. Like we think about it all the time. We make decisions on it. We have best practices when we go out camping. We're leave no trace, right? Like, so I think the more invested you could get into that process, and I mean, fishing's a great gateway into it, is like, or like upland bird hunting or waterfowl hunting, and then you get into big game. But I would urge everybody, it's kind of like a ride along for like police, like to kind of step into that world, is like, ask somebody who hunts, do what I did, right? Like, just, you don't even need to carry a firearm. Like, you could just, can I come out with you and see what it's all about? Because I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that person will convert.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What's
my take on what people are going to think about hunting? I think it's like one of the most incredible experiences a human can have in their entire life. I think every person, I live on a farm, and when we cut the hay, the amount of crows that fly above and hawks and owls, it's out of control. And you know why? It's because the amount of rodents that get showcased or get caught up in the farming equipment kind of are out for clean pickings from these birds. And I think in any process, you can be a vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be a meat eater. No matter what part of the chain that you're a part of, you're going to be affecting life. And I think the value of a rodent is no different than the value of an elk, in my personal opinion. But I think everybody should have to experience what it is like to take a life, because you only grasp an understanding of the world and
maybe even life itself when you have done that. It's the least enjoyable part of the entire experience, but it's a rite of passage almost. Mm-hmm. It's like the crucible you must endure to understand life and understand the world. And so I think when I go to like say I shoot kill an elk or something, or a deer, I typically always take like a minute just to myself with the animal, really just kind of like thanking it and being a part of that. And like, there's always a deep sadness that comes over me kind of during those moments. And then it gets to, okay, this has been done. Now I'm going to honor this to the best of my ability. We're going to quarter it out, pack it up, haul it out, treat it with utmost respect. And we're going to share this with friends and family. And I can say, when you start eating wild game, you eat enough of it, you stop liking farmed animals. You can taste such a difference in the quality of the food that it is like, it's just night and day, and you feel better. You don't have you just don't have any like gastrointestinal issues. I find it's like, it's just night and day. And when you actually know the whole process and what it went through and all the skills it took to even get to that level of like killing an animal, let alone understanding how to butcher, create sausage, hang an animal, clean it, debone it, boil the bones. There's so many skills that are involved from like start to finish that it's really, I've never once heard any hunter describe it eloquently. Like,
how powerful it's a genetic. I feel like it's a DNA thing. It's like there's something deep seated locked in our DNA, and it's an understanding of the world that gets it like turns on the second that you get into that hunting element.
It reminds
the pursuit of something. It's the exciting part about hunting is everything that leads up to the kill. The kill's the worst part. It's everything that leads up to that. That is like the exciting element. And you also have to think like these animals, there's no nice way they're dying in the woods. They're dying by either getting ravaged by wolves, coyotes, birds, starving. Yeah, there's no nice way.
Yeah, none of them are dying of old age in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we really anthropomorphize these animals, and we try to like think of them like humans, and they're not. They're wild animals, and every second you're out there and when you're trying to pursue one, it's life or death for them. And so the difficulty of getting something is up there, but I don't know, there's nothing more fulfilling and also devastating at the same time.
It reminds me of when when Jamie had Haynes, his son, and you hear this all the time from new parents or parents, they're like, you just don't know what that feeling like. You don't know what that love is to love something until you're a parent, like until you've done it. And I think hunting's like that as well. It's like we could go on and try to explain it and stuff and make it as tangible as we can. But like until you do it, that's when you're like, I get it.
Yeah, like if I were to explain to you the love that your dad has for you, you wouldn't understand it until you have a son or a daughter of your own.
You haven't met my dad, but that's
but a lot of I just mean my dad doesn't.
He wasn't around for 25 years, but that's okay, no problem.
But I just mean like the love that a parent has for their kids
I'm joking around.
is greater than the kid. It's different and greater than the kid has up to the parent.
Yeah.
And you only know that once you have kids. So it's like it unlocks this thing, and I think hunting is very similar. Once you kind of cross that threshold,
you're a piece of shit.
You're an animal murderer. Yeah. And
I think the both of your answers are great because it's like slightly different perspectives. But I want to go. Like,
yeah, man.
I've never gone.
Maybe you can be one of our first sessions of like our podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. I don't know if I can do like the 3-day like away.
But you have to.
Yeah.
So it takes 3 days. It takes 3 days in the mountains to get back to
a baseline
of like
not checking your phone and like worried about this, that, and the other thing.
It's not even that. It's like a baseline of what it is to be living in the wild,
like a human condition.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Actually, so the boar thing is cool. So like feral pigs.
Yeah.
So if you put a pig, like a farm pig in the wild, what is it? 3
months it takes.
It takes 3 months for that pig to turn into a wild boar.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it'll grow tusks.
No way.
Yeah. It'll become feral.
Wow.
It'll breed faster. It'll do a number of things. So, and I think humans are very similar. And it typically, I found like on average, it takes 3 days. And then you're
tusks.
like, okay, now my
gray beard to fully come in.
Exactly. It's like that like Play-Doh thing. It's just like it just comes out.
Yeah.
What's next? We got to wrap this up. We're going extra long. What's next for you guys? Where can people find you online? I'm a hunter now, so you convinced one of the 20 people that are going to watch.
Let's go.
I love it. I honestly think like our goal is how can we unite Canadians to get into the outdoors and share that with each other? And we're going to do whatever we can through a number of mediums to achieve that goal. And if it's selling in grocery stores, we're going to do that. If it's selling in online, we're going to do that. We would love to probably look to export in the next couple of years. We're going to try to get out to Japan, I think, is an area that we want to push that. With our instant coffee line, we have a number of new products that we're going to be launching in the next couple of years here. Just kind of extensions on that. And really, we want to be kind of Canada's outdoor coffee company. Like everything around us is going to be really
I think you guys are now.
instilled in that.
You just
Yeah.
want to be bigger.
I think we're just going to continue to do that, and we know it's going to take time, and we're going to have fun with it. And I think a lot of the things that we're going to do into the future are not just going to be in Canada. It'll be outdoor activities in Guatemala or Honduras or Colombia or Papua New Guinea. Like, we're going to do really cool, fun things from a media perspective, it really integrating our coffee sourcing stuff as well.
Yeah, I think if anyone's listening to this and they're really, identifying with what we got going on, then, the future for us and how they could get involved is our brand ambassador program, right? If their creators reach out, if they want to go and do things, like we're an open book, and we always love doing those things and bringing other people along. So, just
What's our website?
It's I was going to try to think of something fun to say. It's ROSSO.
Yeah, there we go.
It's Canadian Heritage Roasting Co. Was the website. Is Instagram. Our Facebook's goofy. It's like some weird acronym.
Oh, yeah.
But no one's on Facebook anyway. No boomers are listening to this. Yeah.
Maybe a few.
Maybe
I'm a boomer now.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't we all?
Thanks, boys. I learned a lot. I didn't quite know the full journey. Now I know the full journey.
The cool thing is, in that journey, we got to like maybe just 2018, and we skipped a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I know.
But we haven't even gone the rest of the way.
Well, we could have a part 2.
7-part series.
Let's do it.
All right.
We got to get some of your content. Where's your camera guy who's doing all the content for you guys?
Oh, right. He's right here.
Oh.
He's in my pocket. Let me do this.
Oh, I'm not your background anymore.
No, you're out.
That's sad.
You're fucking out.
Woo! Podcast time.
Podcast. There. That's it. Content done.
Yeah, we're done for the month.
Yeah, we're wrapped.
Living in the moment, see?
Yeah. I really appreciate it. The story, the journey is really cool to see unfold. And I'm cheering for you guys.
Thanks,
we
man.
appreciate it.
You guys have stayed like in a certain lane, and I love it. I think it's like really, enduring. And we've gone golfing a few times, and we gotta.
I've denied your dinner invites, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's tough. But
Yeah, rude.
Don't worry, we'll get one in there.
yeah, well, we'll get you both.
I just got
maybe
a
we'll
hot
go for
tub.
lunch. We can go for lunch after this.
Yeah, hit the links.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Signing out. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
Thank you.